not like the one we used for the Metal Lab, where all of a sudden this cowbell starts showing up and I have some kind of marker in the song to deal with whatever. To like, transition smoothly, as it were. It's like, okay, this is probably a good place. It's like a minute of solid just staring at that thing, wondering, are you going to get more interesting song, or do I just have to kind of roll with it?
You're all the rolling with it.
All the rolling with it. It's Patron Hangout time. The patrons are running a little behind, but we start at 9:30, and this is always a good time to get some housekeeping done on the show. The channel housekeeping, as it were. So, Amber, recently we've uploaded something, right?
Pardon?
We uploaded something, right?
Yeah, Move and Attack.
Move and Attack?
Move and Attack seems to be the consistent show that we've gotten lately. And by consistent, I mean it's the one that shows up, even though that's showing up like once every 2 or 3 weeks. But that's the show that's going out there. So the most recent one was a couple weeks ago for our WKO out in Elmville with the 2 of us and Aiden.
Yeah. We have one filmed for our trip to New York.
Which will be coming out this week.
Which is also interrupted several times by customs. We didn't actually have the camera running at customs. That's the stupidest thing you could have possibly done. I think the second we get in the line at customs, like, cut it. But it's always fun to do this. We're planning a Married Lab this week, this Friday. Probably going to play some Rebirth.
That would be nice, since I haven't done anything with this set.
She's so spiteful, and she's so angry, like it's my fault or something.
That I popped out 3 children.
Okay, look, I just put them in there. Holy smokes. We gotta teach our patrons how to use the Patron Hangouts questions channel.
Discord is the worst for that, and like all the other Discord servers I'm on are the same way, where it's like you have this specific channel set up, and then like one person puts it in the wrong spot and it starts a conversation, and it's like, guys, this isn't where this conversation is supposed to be going. It's like, that's supposed to be in the other channel, learn to use Discord. But it's like, we've been doing this all the time. And I'm not talking about our Patron Hangout, like I'm saying the other servers that I'm on.
Speaking of, guess who's one of the guilty parties on this? Hey,
I didn't do anything, you can't prove anything, I'm an American.
Actually, I have the evidence right here. I'm going to show it on screen for everybody.
Oh, no. Anything but that. I'm not prepared for this.
We're just talking about what the Patron Hangout Questions channel is meant for, Drew.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm confused. I'm innocent.
You and Nathaniel both right here.
Hey, man. My hatred for Dawnbreaker's backstory will never cease because it could have been so much better than it was.
You know, I haven't read the Batman Metal stuff yet.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
I don't read DC.
Savage.
Both of those statements, I will stand by.
Although I lie, I am currently reading Justice League Odyssey because it seemed cool. I have no idea what it's in regards to.
Is that letting you down now, or?
No?
No. Like, it's interesting, but it's obviously part of a greater story that I just don't care about.
My current Marvel stuff is Immortal Hulk, Conan,
so
Savage
good.
Sword of Conan, Age of Conan Belit, and that's all my Marvel. So like 3 Conan books and Hulk, and everything else is IDW right now.
I read too much Marvel. I read way too much. As my wallet cries every week right now because I decided to get into an X-Men storyline.
Oh.
I don't know if anybody else is following Age of X-Men right now, but there's like 2 or 3 books every week for it. I'm like, this got really expensive.
What is it? Extremists? X-Men? Or Uncanny X-Men or something like that?
The Marvelous X-Men, the Amazing Nightcrawler, the Extremist, Department X, Prisoner X, and then Apocalypse and the Extracts. I think there's 6 books currently going, and then Uncanny X-Men is happening outside of X-Men's dream world.
Yeah.
So.
You know, reasonable amount, really.
Yeah. Plus, anything that has Wolverine's name attached to it, so there's Wolverine Long Night, Wolverine Infinity Watch, and then I'm also reading X-23, which is not caught up to where Uncanny X-Men and Age of X-Men are. That storyline is actually behind, because X-23 was in the Marvelous X-Men. And then Captain Marvel has a side story that just started where she gets trapped in like a bubble of like feminism. Nuclear Man makes this like weird world where he trapped only the women. So it's like a whole bunch of female superheroes are fighting Nuclear Man.
Reminds me of A-Force.
It's actually a really good book, but it's just like the weirdest premise.
I read Ninja Turtles and Conan. Oh, and I'm reading Red Sonja.
And then we're also not including the like Archie horror books that I read as well.
Yeah. I just found out that there was a TMNT role-playing game, like a book's tabletop and everything.
Oh, yeah, there's tons of stuff.
There was a bunch of stuff from like the 90s for that, right?
Yeah, late 80s, early 90s, there's some role-playing games, there's current role-playing games, there's the current board games. Because IDW now has its own board game section of the office. So.
Yeah, I saw that while we were in New York. They also a whole slew of Ghostbusters games.
Then I must not be as big a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan as Jason is.
I'm sure he's got some years on you. That
Oh, dude, compare me to Mike. Like, Mike was actually old enough to read the Ninja Turtles original.
yeah.
Like, the original black and white one, Mike was old enough to read that, so. Haha, Mike's old.
Yeah. It's like, dude, I turned 24 on Wednesday. Like, I get reminded I'm young. The only saving grace is that Micah is in the Clix community, so I've got someone younger than me guaranteed.
Well, Micah and Isaac, you always got that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and
almost
Isaac.
10 years older than you.
I have never met Isaac. I don't think.
He said 24?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 12 years older than him, so. Oh boy.
Wait,
Yep.
Never get old, Jason.
Well, 24. I'm 36. My math works. You're 4 years younger than me, which means you're 8 years older.
Yeah, I said I'm almost. It's actually 9.
It is relatively close to 10.
It's actually 9.
It rounds up.
33 this year, and you'll be 37 this year. Just because our birthdays are at the end of the year doesn't mean you don't get to count them.
Oh, I get to count them. Nathaniel's telling me I should go to Granite Con this year. I think Nathaniel is either attempting to kidnap me or just wants me to visit because he's often telling me to go to New Hampshire. Well, it is one of the few states I haven't been to.
I mean, is there a good reason behind that? Is what I'm hearing, or
A good reason I haven't gone, or
yeah.
Generally, it's I'm like HeroClix Hitchhiker, so it's not that I'm not going by choice. It's nobody else who I would usually hitch a ride with is going. So if he's got to convince the wrong person. You don't have to convince me. You got to convince Tom and all those guys. It's like if they come, and then they might be like, "Hey Jay, you know, we crossed the border over near you anyway." So.
So what he has to do is he has to open his home up to 2 other Canadians, and then the third will show up.
Exactly. Or just Tom. Who doesn't want Tom over?
If you open it, they will come.
Oh, man. Yeah, Tom just tends to just go. And sometimes I find out he's going and I just kind of do this.
Are there times where, like, I've actually had once or twice recently where I've seen, like, people put up, like, here's your top 8. Tom, what are you doing there?
Yeah. Tom,
How did you get there?
Tom, what are you doing? Where in the world is Thomas Kerr?
Yeah, he doesn't actually tell people when he travels. He just shows up.
Yeah.
Oh no, that very frequently happens. It was especially my favorite was when when I found out the day before the event that he was near Majestics in California because he was down in California for work. Mm-hmm. And it was like, wait, you're where? He's like, Majestics, what is the competition you should like there? It's like, fiendishly rough. Why didn't you call me ahead of time? Are you about to try to play the game with your own figures, Tom? You maniac!
Imagine he's like on the other side of a store or something, talking to you, and y'all are like almost seeing each other every 5 minutes or so.
Oh man, yeah. I feel like Tom has a teleporter, but he drives us to keep up appearances.
It's like the Flash. He's always a little late just so that no one thinks he's the fastest man alive.
Yeah. And then he exits. He actually teleports home and comes back with the yellow shirt on. He's actually showered, shaved, and everything on his...
Tom, how did you... We don't even have a working bath in our room. I don't know what you're talking about. It works great for me.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. You don't see him roll his eyes like, oh, God, Jason wants to go. That means I got to drive. That's so slow.
In the back, his teleporter's like, I'm ready and loaded, man.
I think even the singing is part of the front. His interest in singing. No, he's got a beautiful voice, and it's his career. But carrying on with the joke, he sings, and he's got this fake interest in singing theater in order to entertain us and himself while he has to take these long drives because, he can't take the teleporter.
Long drives.
I like my Tom Kerr fanfic right here. Boom.
Well, he's not here to defend himself. Now is their time to strike.
Sure?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm boring. That's what she's saying.
No, it's actually very close to Amber's bedtime. That's why she hasn't been able to stay very long on the Patron Hangouts the past couple months, is Amber's new job is a 6 in the morning job now. So she has to get bed at the ripe early hour of like 10:30, or she will be worthless the next day. So
it's not a job you want to be worthless for in the morning, considering like I do manual labor. A lot of heavy lifting and a lot of power tools. Not something you want to do while you're tired.
I just work with a school at this point, so I get that hours.
That's fair.
All right, we do have a question in the Patron Hangout questions. To start, or to actually, we've been talking to Drew. It's a Hangout, but I do want to address this question because David has asked me several times, and it's always been at inopportune moments or inappropriate times. Because I think the first time he asked, it was Every Man for Everyone. I was like, this isn't going to come up. I can't talk about this on that show. But he wants to know how feats and battlefield conditions work in Golden Age these days. And that's a very good question, because that's a hard question to answer directly, because Golden Age as it exists kind of doesn't exist. It's not fully supported is the word I'm looking for. And an experienced judge would be the best person to run Golden Age. And hopefully would understand I would usually go by the last set of rules prior to them completely disappearing from the rule book, which was feat cards. You still add them to the character, and as long as they have the power at any point in the dial, they apply to the character. But no more than, I think it was a limit of 10% of your build force could be feat cards. And then the last version of battlefield conditions, battlefield conditions, they trigger at the beginning of the game prior to the game starting. You kind of hide it, and then you both show them. If one doesn't have them, then the other one triggers. And then there was a weird tournament rule that I guess they got rid of, or just doesn't apply anymore, that if you had a theme team once per tournament, you could say, no battlefield condition for you. Which meant, I would bring Ordinary Day, do that, and have to deal with one battlefield condition, with lucky me usually in the first round turned out to be Ordinary Day, because in the time of battlefield conditions, nobody liked battlefield conditions.
Yeah. You really only ever played with 2 battlefield conditions because everybody always brought Ordinary Day.
Yeah. Everybody brought one. Yeah, everybody would always... I think you were only allowed 2 anyway. It was one less than the number of rounds of the tournament or something.
Oh, I thought you got 3.
It might have been 3, I don't know. There was never a conclusive set of rules for them.
We're talking at least, I want to say 12 years since
when did
we've played with battlefield conditions.
Since we've played. I think Hammer of Thor was the last time anything was related to a card. I don't even know if they had battlefields in there. Yeah, the ones just had feats.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a quick research run here. God, Hammer of Thor was a wrong. Holy smokes! How many sets have come out since Hammer of Thor?
All the sets.
That's just a Fast Forces there too. Even better. 2000. Oh God, it's been 10 years since.
Yeah. And, it's been 12 years since we played it. 10 years since maybe the last time they made some.
Yeah. Some Hammer Thor had them. Did Brave and the Bold have them? Brave and the Bold had one. So we're at about 9 years now. If you want to round it off.
I think Web of Spider-Man is the next factory start.
Web of Spider-Man had one feat card. So they're starting to go down, and then 75th anniversary had Brightest Day. Holy smokes, they really hung in there, didn't they?
It lasted.
Giant size X-Men is where they died. So
2011.
So it's been 8.
So 8 years since they made them. So, but I mean, when it comes down to it, they're gonna play the way that they always played. With Golden Age right now, it's not even a format that WizKids supports anymore. They've taken out their Golden Age stuff, so then it really even comes down to the venue that you're playing at, because I know that, like, even our venue, they'll do Golden Age a lot, but it's kind of like a venue house rule that even though we're playing Golden Age, like, just don't do
feats happen all the time, but feats are just a tack onto a character. They don't complicate anything, except for Dive Bomb. That complicates things.
Yeah.
Because ask somebody who started at a certain time what Dive Bomb does, and they'll turn to you and say, "Hold on a second, what's soaring?"
Yeah, I think it was one of the very first just like casual Saturday afternoon tournaments that we had when we started going back to like a venue level playing, and like my first opponent had feats, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen these in a while, that's cool, and like had Dive Bomb and was essentially using Dive Bomb like Hypersonic, which even when soaring was a thing and Dive Bomb worked, it didn't work like Hypersonic, so it was just like, not only are you using an outdating mechanic, but also you're doing it wrong? So it's like, well, like, I was brand new to the venue, so I was like, that doesn't work the way you think it works. And I had to call the judge over to be like, this doesn't work. And like, he had to explain to the guy why it didn't work and what it was supposed to do, but it was like, basically what Dive Bomb was that, soaring was a mechanic that, if you ever seen the old bases, they had little flight stands with like a little like knob that went up and down. And you could use a point of your movement to say you were soaring, and you click the knob up. And while you were soaring, you could not make close combat attacks. And you had to, unless you were against another soaring character. And range was half. And anybody shooting you, the range was half. So what Dive Bomb did was you put it on a character that's flying, and then while they're soaring, they're allowed to make close combat attacks versus someone on the ground. So, like, nowhere in that equates to hypersonic speed. Like, I'm like, I don't even know where you're getting this from. Like, why do you think this is allowing you to move and attack and move again? Like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So, who knows? But
anyway, so yeah, that's one of those things you have to kind of keep an eye open for. And old Golden Age stuff, so much of it didn't age, or so many mechanics kind of just don't survive a certain point, you know. And then you ask yourself questions like, why does a World Breaker have a special power that gives him willpower, and Impervious, why didn't he just have Indomitable? Indomitable being created 2 sets later. So I think first set with Indomitable and all those other things would have been Secret Invasion, if I remember correctly, right? Remember? Yeah? I don't know.
That was at the time we weren't playing, so it was, we got out of the game, and traits, White Powers had just been introduced. We got back into the game, and it was basically like, here's all your new stuff. And then like a year after we got in, they redid the pack and brought in Pink Powers. So we came back to the game right as Pink Powers were introduced. And then also certain powers got tweaked, like Energy Explosion.
Well, no, we were back in before the Pink Powers, because we were
That's
in
what
for.
I just said.
Oh,
we came in, and then the Pink Powers were introduced.
Okay, well, you said we came in around the time the Pink Powers came.
Yeah.
No, they were like a year or two after we got back into the game.
Okay.
That's a lot of time.
So my around was exaggerated.
This is the sign of aging. Years start to get smaller, Amber. It's happening. So long and the short of it, to kind of go back to David's question, as I'm sure it was super important for, because Dave does run a venue, and I guess he's got a lot of demand for Golden Age from his players. A battlefield condition is decided on at the start of the game, and that effect on the battlefield card just kind of affects the whole game. Good luck figuring out what some of those things do, because I think it was High Rise was one of them that turns elevated into blocking.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's also Atlantis Rising, where
everything is
water.
Yeah.
Everything ground level was water.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of nightmares to battlefield conditions that haven't aged particularly well. So you might, if you're running a venue, I'd suggest going through all of them and just kind of deciding which ones can go away and which ones don't really fit in with your store.
And for the sake of your players possibly instituting a Highlander rule for feats, because there's nothing worse than coming across a character, say like Unimind, that has 3 protecteds on them.
I would quit that game. Alright. Hey, back to Drew. Back to focusing on Drew, because Drew is here.
Hello.
Hey. Yeah, I'm not sure. The mic problems might be our thing. There's some more USBs in our machine that might be interfering with some of the noise. I'm also not consistently looking at the mic, so I should probably get on that.
Are people having a hard time hearing it?
Nathaniel was saying he's having some hard time hearing it, but I'm not sure if that's us at his level or if that's if it's something, some of his audio issues. If anybody's in the chat, let us know if they're having audio issues with us, or if we sound like we're recording from a fish tank.
We are recording from a fish tank.
Are we? Grand fish
Well,
tank of the universe.
You have to define what Canada counts as. Does it count as a fish tank? Is it a country? Like, where does it fall on the spectrum?
Where do we fall on the spectrum of country, fish tank, or
Yeah,
massive land mass
I feel
that
like
actually...
that's a very wide spectrum when you have fish tank over here and country over here.
I mean, to be fair, a fish tank can be any size.
That's
Not
true.
wrong. Could be a very big fish tank.
Yeah.
Why don't you come running over to the country, see if you run into glass? Because then it might be all of North America that is in fact in the fish tank.
You know, I don't want to get political.
Neither do we.
So I had the thought today that I thought was interesting. So if you have Dawnbreaker on your team and the enemy has the AI Groot that makes the Leslie Pog, you know what I'm talking about?
There's some kind of thing in regards to that. I don't remember specifically what it was. I believe because Groot is the one generating it, and
The
they
Dawnbreaker
give you the
makes its own?
Leslie, you will get the Leslie from the Dawnbreaker. So you'll get 2 Leslies.
That's what I thought, and I thought that was so neat.
Yeah.
Getting 2 outwits for the price of 1.
No complaints from me on that one.
Yeah.
I'm going to mess with sound settings on that one. So everybody gets to see me whip out my speaker thing.
As much as I hate Dawnbreaker, I think Dawnbreaker at 75 just means, hey, if you're playing against a Pog team, you just made an extra team on top of your 225 points.
My goal has always been to bring the Dawnbreaker with a Pog team, so when they bring a Dawnbreaker, I get more value.
Yeah. Well, the only downside of that is that there's no Pog generators with the same keywords as he does. And arguably one of the best Pog generators right now is the Iron Man, given that he's one of the only ones.
I mean, there's a lot of monsters that create Pogs.
Are there?
Oh, yeah. Carnage, Groot. Those are the 2 big ones that come to mind. Those are the ones I was
Yeah.
writing.
Fair enough.
Recording. This one.
Because Carnage only makes them... Or, well, I guess he only starts with them. So if you're not worried about him starting with them, then yeah.
And then he'll make them later on. And even then, it's like you're stuck with a Pog that's got to walk now. And they're not particularly quick, though with +1 movement, they have a 7 movement.
Well, they only get the +1 if Dawnbreaker makes them, and he only makes them if the opponent does.
Yeah, that's fair. That is a fair point.
What I'm interested to see is if any drowned teams come about, because now you can give the King Sharks their stealth whilst they're also in water terrain.
Yeah, it was the Drowned and Tempest seem like a really good coupling right now.
Yeah.
Because the Tempest has free action Smoke Cloud, but it makes water instead of smoke.
We used him I used him in our pre-release, and he did so good.
Yeah, I played against him in our pre-release, and he was a bit of a pain in my butt because I was down to like a cyborg by the end of my turn or end of the game. I wasn't playing particularly intelligently, but yeah, and then Tempest just stopped me from being able to use cyborg. It's like, wow, this guy is good for an uncommon. Although he's only beating up on a common, but still, that's not really the case. I had a super offensive character, and I was just getting stopped by free actions.
Yeah. Well, in addition to the fact that it's still Smoke Cloud, so you're still getting that -1 to attack if you attack in it.
That's right, because it doesn't matter. Like Smoke Cloud doesn't identify as it's got to be a hindering terrain marker. It's the marker created by the use of Smoke Cloud is going to give you the -1 attack, and he's creating water, but it's still water that is Smoke Cloud technically. Therefore, -1 attack.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
One of those moments where you basically need a law degree to discuss HeroClix rules.
Yeah.
Why I stopped.
I mean, it's why Adam Friedman is so good at it. He's a law student, so.
Yeah.
He's such a natural.
The Smoke Cloud heretofore referred to as water terrain.
Just gonna fiddle with the mic a little. See what's up with it. Because apparently we are getting some issues from other folks. What?
I'm reading Nathaniel's thing there where he was saying that he thinks the first set was Wolverine and the X-Men, but then he didn't think that Invincible Iron Man had pink powers, but Invincible Iron Man came out after Wolverine and the X-Men.
That is a fair point. Okay. Get him, Amber. Get him.
It's just one of those moments of like they just didn't use it. No, it definitely had pink powers. I pulled up Invincible Iron Man on HC Realms, and literally #1 Iron Man has got Precision Strike on its top tile.
Yeah.
Precision Strike, Invincible, Precision Strike.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, though, he might have been going off of memory, he didn't have HC Realms.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Well,
I
yeah,
only
but-
really remember because, like, the first unboxing that we did for the channel was Wolverine and the X-Men. And then Invincible Iron Man came out later because shortly after Invincible Iron Man, which would have come out in, like, the October, November, like, Wolverine was an August, September release. And actually, I think it was more July because it was in that weird bubble where Worlds had just moved. And so Wolverine and the X-Men came out, and then Invincible Iron Man was after it, and then that, like, late fall, we were doing Avengers vs. X-Men with the Phoenix Force. And while you were building your X-Men and Avengers teams for that, it was easier to be on the Avengers side because you could still find Invincible Iron Man around, but it was near impossible to find any Wolverine and the X-Men. So, like, we couldn't really do any sealed tournaments for that because there was no set to do it with. Sorry, this is how I remember things.
So,
like my thought processes of going through this stuff.
Nathaniel in the chat has asked if Lex Luthor or Donald Trump, who is the better president, and I named a format after why Lex Luthor is the better president. Under Lex Luthor, everybody had superpowers.
So that just makes me fear a world where, with Donald Trump in charge and everybody having superpowers.
I think that problem would kind of solve itself, wouldn't it?
You'd hope so.
You'd have to define supervillain and superhero very particularly in that situation.
Yeah.
There's been yet another standoff at the White House as a man with super strength was approached by a man with energy blasts.
All while the man with hydrokinesis was just yelling about the fish.
Oh my.
Man with electrical powers solving electricity problems burns down windmill farm.
Man with energy absorption powers unsolving that problem.
I don't know if Lex Luthor was onto the right thing.
Well, having seen his piece, which looks very nice, personally, I think it is underwhelming with how it performed.
It worked. It dominated the Seal.R event, that's for sure. I don't distinctly. I've seen it. I'm trying to go off of memory what it did, and I can't remember. So I got.
Well, it's got hypersonic for that top dial click. Like that's pretty much all it. They make the whole. You're only worried about top dial. Problem is, he goes from top dial hypersonic to charge, and it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
Lex Luthor, you deserve better than that. But I do really like the defense power. I think that's neat.
That's the one. Yeah, he the first attack deals 1 damage to him.
At most. Yeah.
Yeah, I did because he's a super rare, if I remember correctly.
He is number 51.
Yeah. Oh, jeez, what is that?
He doesn't even have an attack power.
Well, I'm okay with an 11 for 4 top dial with the hypersonic and everything. It's just if he didn't go to charge, that's my problem with it. Yeah. It's like, why are you putting him to charge? This is Lex Luthor. Keep that hypersonic on there. Go down to like a 10 attack. Keep the 4 damage, and give him like precision strike.
Yeah, he doesn't have particularly healy keywords either. Like, there's not a lot. Well, there's scientists. No, there's no real good healers and scientists. I'm trying to think. Like, can we keep him on the top dial?
Well, like honestly, for armor, and I really wish I could do something with them. The what if Iron Man that's like 65 points with enhancement, that if the person he's enhancing has armor, they get +2 to damage.
That would be nice till July.
Hey man, every little bit.
Dude, I'm riding a Maridroid and Ironheart until the end. I think at this point, just so that I can bring dinosaurs.
As I have publicly said before, and I'll say again, I'm excited for uni retirement.
Oh, see you in 2020.
Yeah, no, hey man, I didn't say it was close. I just said I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I've been ready for it since Rock World Cup.
I've been ready for it since the Mighty Thor came out.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. It's the last one I participated in, and I had to play against the Unimind for 5 rounds of Swiss.
Oh man.
Yeah. Although I do have to say, this past weekend at New York States was the first time I actually played against a Unimind.
Like a Unimind in general, or a
Unimind in general?
Just a Unimind on
I have never done well enough in HeroClix to go to face a Unimind. And like the first year and a half that he was out, I was judging. So.
Yeah.
No, she's such a good secret weapon. She has to judge. That's what it is. That's why my venue lets me judge. I'm the secret weapon. Never look at my performance. Just take me at my word.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there, like, looking over the pack, being like, what does this do now? What is this power? Can you do this? But when they first did because, like, I had one instance where I was like, oh, you can't. I'm like, they changed that. You can't do that. I'm like, oh, no, they changed it and then changed it again. That's why you can do it now. And it's like, God damn it, this is why I don't do the rules anymore to this game.
Well, it's like, I was at Texas State's, and I had a Daredevil on my team, and I thought, can I carry a multi-based figure with another flyer? And I thought about it, I was like, I feel like I can't, but I don't know where it says I can't. So I was looking through the rules, asked the judge, and I'm like, hey, do you know? And he's like, huh? So we both looked, and it's just like, I guess you can. There's nowhere that says you can't. So I was like, all right.
Yeah, because for all intents and purposes, Daredevil's considered a standard character.
Yeah. Just a peanut base.
Yep.
So one of the, it was just like the rule of zeros when they were first updating the rule book, and the rule of zeros was anytime you had a 0, you couldn't use that stat. And the Starfights have 0 attack, 0 damage. So I'm like, they can't do anything. And I'm running a Starro team, and I'm like, they can't do anything. They just run up to people, and like, Starro eats them. And then I looked at it again, because I was going up against a mirror match, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. I was like, they changed that. And then I went in the rule book and I was like, oh right, they went and changed it again, where the rule of zeros only applies to range and passenger.
Yeah.
Or if those are zeros, you cannot increase your passenger, and you cannot make a range attack if you have a range of 0. Unless you replace the value or something like that. And it's, oh my god, why did you make this complicated? Why did you bother?
Dang it, WizKids. You uncomplicate the game to recomplicate the game. Stop.
Right, and then like it made sense when they're like, oh, if you have a 0 attack, you can't attack. That makes sense. Like,
and then Then they introduced the Super Friends, and then they made a bunch of 0-point Pogs, or 0-attack Pogs, and now they can attack. Guess what? They're gonna miss. And now you get Super Friends. Basically,
yeah, and I was like, oh, that's a really good way to bring out. So I didn't have Super Friends on my team, anyways, but I went up against at least 2 other Staros at the event. Where I'm like, you guys are playing your Starfights a lot better than I'm playing mine.
You know what Starfights are also really good at? Taking tokens off of Daredevil.
Yeah. Right, because it doesn't have to have an attack roll with a 6. It
doesn't have to be a hitting attack roll. You just gotta have a 6 in it.
Yeah. Let alone if he's on that second click and they crit hit him, and it's just like, did you just die to a Starfight? And Daredevil's like, I don't want to talk about this. It didn't happen. Let me have my dignity, man.
Ah, what was that?
That's alright. Twice in the tournament, I forgot that Lockjaw was on Clix 6, and he got thrown out of the Bifrost in 2 separate games.
Oof.
Yeah, it was rough.
Nothing beats being able to say, my Brontosaurus attacks. I try to mind control your Brontosaurus. No. He's got Battle Fury.
I'm gonna roll my shape change.
No. He's got Battle Fury. He doesn't care what shape you are. You're food.
Actually, brontosauruses, if I remember correctly, are herbivores.
Yeah, you're right. The Tyrannosaurus is what turned them into food.
Yeah. Glad I could correct you about random dinosaur trivia.
Dinosaur facts.
Dinosaur facts!
I know. I want to like Stegron. I do. But I just can't. And I couldn't tell you why.
Racism!
Look, man. Not my fault he could cure cancer and then he's choosing not to.
I tried, at least!
Well, no, that's one of the best comic book panels is the you could cure cancer, and his response is, but I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs.
Yeah, that was Sauron.
Yeah, Sauron says that.
Is it Sauron?
I don't care about curing cancer. I want to make people dinosaurs. That's who it's Sauron. Oh my goodness. Oh, comics.
They are weird. They're very weird. What? Yeah, that's not something we need to deal with right now. Alright. So we're still playing the waiting game.
Do we have any other questions? I know everybody's talking, but...
So, what is the coolest looking recent chase out of the Earth X and Rebirth sets?
Coolest looking.
Mm-hmm. Most visually appealing.
Cool? Is that how you say it? I don't know. I've only ever seen
I believe it's Barbados, but I call him Barnabas.
Barnabas?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I'm going to get it wrong, I'm going to make myself laugh. Barnabas.
Barnaby.
Yeah, geez. Barnabas or Bartleby.
What are the Earth X chases?
Venoms. They're super edgelordy. They're Venom.
Hey, they resemble that remark.
I'm just saying. Did he throw your favorite chase of all time? Where is that?
So, well, considering he's using it to talk to us as well, we keep missing all of the questions. I think it's the Drowned.
The Aqua Girl?
Yeah. I like that one. I like most of that. I don't think I like any of the
Gwenpool Cat
I feel it's like the zombies where I'm oversaturated with venom versions right now.
Yeah. And as far as I haven't seen, I do gotta say Devastator does look cool. Like he's cool looking, but he's also got that edgelord problem.
I mean, you say problem, I say addition. You know, like.
I haven't even seen what half of these look like.
A lot of these look very samey at a distance is the problem. Like the Red Death stands out because he is red. As red AF, man.
I haven't seen half of them.
But
So
Red and Fabulous?
Dawnbreaker is like dark scaled green, so kind of looks like everything else. I have to say, if you know what, the fact that the Bondage Robin is on the Batman Who Laughs, I think just adds that little bit of oomph and that extra eye gain on it.
In the eternal words of a nerd, actually, its name is Crow.
Yeah,
I know that you
it's-
actually do.
I mean, whatever.
Hey man, I enjoy Dropout as much as the next man.
I just haven't brought myself to pay for that one yet.
I'm
Dude, it's
actually
worth it.
very tempted. I want to find like a weekend where I'm not doing anything, sign up for the 7-day free trial, and then just watch every episode of Actually, and then be done with it.
No, dude, I don't know if y'all are into D&D or not. Dimension 20 is amazing.
Like, I know they have good shows there, and like I do enjoy like their free like YouTube content. It's just I have so much stuff to watch. I just can't be bothered.
I feel like we're back in the days of paid cable. We have our internet connection. We don't have cable, but we pay for Netflix. We pay for Crave and the HBO package on top of Crave. That would be our equivalent to Hulu.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, Crave is a Canadian thing.
Yeah. Then we have our Rooster Teeth account.
Mm-hmm.
We pay for something else, don't we?
We pay for Amazon Prime, which gives us Prime Video.
Right. And so there's that. It's like I'm paying for 5 different services. And there's one I would pay for the WWE Network if they could let me have it without cable.
They won't.
They won't let me have it without cable.
How dare they?
Bell, get out of here.
Cable TV monopolies.
You know what? I'd honestly be okay if they added a WWE Network addition to Crave at this point.
Pay the $5. I'm still annoyed. So, Crave is whatever. It's a streaming service, but it has like HBO and Stars and Showcase. And if you get basic Crave, you basically get Showcase.
Showtime.
Showtime, sorry. You get Showtime. And then you have to pay extra to get HBO, and they're like, okay, we'll throw some movies in there. But then you have to pay another one in addition to that to get all the Stars movies and stuff, and it's just like, why do I have to pay 3 different times for this one service? Like, just give it to me all together. Like, doesn't make sense.
Because it's
Just having the
$9.99
cable
for the base
flashbacks.
service. Then it's $9.99 for the HBO and movie package. That's another $5.99 for Stars. You can tell it's made by Bell, who's also a cable service provider. Like, I think Hulu's just one price, isn't it?
There's a regular price, and then there's if you don't want ads, so there's one price.
I thought the price was to not get ads, because I remember Hulu, when it started, was like, it's free, but you gotta deal with commercials, kind of like Crunchyroll started.
Is from what I pay for, there's a like a minimal ad, I guess, and then no ads.
Okay.
And like a little bit more. Because I do the no ads.
I mean,
Because I'm
should-
lazy.
Yeah, at any price, it should be no ads. That's my opinion.
When you're paying for a service. I mean, it all depends on, I guess, what they're adding. I don't know, Nathaniel. How are you not watching Game of Thrones?
I know
right
how
now?
I'm not watching Game of Thrones right now. I haven't finished catching up on season 7. My prediction is we won't be able to watch tonight's episode until like Thursday or Friday. Best guess. And that's if we watch enough on Tuesday, Wednesday. Like, because we're 3 episodes in?
Yeah.
3 episodes in on season 7. It's a 10 episode season? So yeah, we're going to be lucky if we can watch it on Friday. That's fine. You know what? It's the first episode of the season. If somebody spoils something for me while I'm at work,
It won't
it's-
have much context
Yeah.
for us because we haven't seen season 7.
can you imagine this character died? It's going to be some character they actually introduce like 7 episodes from now.
We actually were sitting there watching like the premiere, or like the first episode of season 7, and we're like, okay, what storylines do we remember from season 6? Because like where people have been waiting almost 2 years between season 7 and season 8, we haven't watched since season 6. So it's been like a good 3 years.
Yeah, and we watched
since
season
we've
6 while it was happening.
Yeah, since we've actually watched Game of Thrones. So it's like, do you remember what happened? Where was this character? Oh yeah, they're doing this. Is this somebody we're supposed to know? Like,
Do we know this character? Oh, that's what's his name? So and so.
and I'm just like, when did this character come back? Because
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
It's alright, because that character never comes back for long enough in Game of Thrones. So.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
The disclaimer, just Game of Thrones tagline: "Don't get attached."
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not allowed to like characters in Game of Thrones.
They're all horrible for your safety.
It was a spoiler alert when Oberon died. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't love anyone. I cannot love anymore. I also can't eat blood oranges anymore.
In Game of Thrones?
There is actually like a fan-made song that I love to death, and it's a love letter to J.R.R. Martin.
Is that Don't Kill Tyrion?
Yeah, and it's just the name of the song is Don't Kill Tyrion, and it's an entire like 3-minute song begging him not to let Tyrion die and to just let Tyrion survive the entire like series. And it is fantastic, and honestly, just Google Don't Kill Tyrion. It's an amazing song.
Jonathan Young, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's a couple of Game of Thrones songs that he's written.
Great voice, good covers.
Oh, yeah.
Love the dude. I help father his babies. Holding pattern for Mike.
I'm not entertaining enough. I knew it.
Well,
you're plenty entertaining.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this.
Oh, good. My heart does not hurt as much.
Questions in the Patron Hangout questions chat, which is where they should be appearing. But
we do have to answer Nathaniel's
we
question.
do have to answer Nathaniel's question. He wants to know what is our favorite chase of all time? Because Drew limited it to the past 2 sets. Nathaniel's going all time.
Now, our clarification on that: are we adding uniques as chases?
I know you have to add Hanna-Barbera music.
What's that?
I said you had to add the Hanna-Barbera music. Or the Benny Hill. Benny Hill, that's what it is.
Yeah, because when HeroClix first came out, chases weren't a thing. The closest we had to chases were, there were a few Ellies that were, there was a select few Ellies that were actually packaged into packages.
They were referred to as super rares, though.
Were they?
Yep.
Okay.
Which were rarer than unique. That was so stupid.
I just knew I had a few. I have the Superwoman and the Superboy that were out of booster out.
I'm going to say yes. Let's consider those uniques. Yeah. Okay. Well, because they were harder when you think about like the grand scale of it. They weren't particularly easy to get because there's 4 per case.
Yeah.
Every case at the time had 48 packs.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 48 packs you got 4, which meant there was 1 in every 12 packs. And every 12 packs was actually 4 figures per pack. And 12 packs, that's 48 figures. So 1 in every 48 average. And then chases nowadays are 1 in every 50. So...
yeah, I would say on par.
I mean, based on the fact that, like, past couple sets have had at minimum like pretty close to 8 chase per break. We're at about a 1.5 right now. So.
Yeah, because that's one of the things for
Oh,
anybody...
Nathaniel said yes.
That is one of the things for anybody that was not opening boosters in the early days. 5-figure boosters, when they advertise them as 5-figure boosters, are actually... I mean, they're not really new anymore because they came out in like 2007, 2008 that they introduced the 5-figure booster. But for a good first 5 years of the game, boosters were 4 figures. And then the exciting but unfortunate part of, I believe, Fantastic Forces was the first set that introduced Peanut Bases and Giants. Those figures, to fit the Giants and Peanut Bases in, meant that you got boosters that only had 3 figures. Could you imagine, though, like, opening a booster and only getting 3 figures? It was disheartening. It was so disheartening to do that. But it was like, oh my god, look at this cool lockjaw. Oh my god, look, it's Moonstar on Airthorn. And then, but then you're like, oh, but I only got 2 other figures in my booster.
But sealed was also 3 packs back then too.
True. So.
And packs were about $8 a pop. So.
Yeah. And that's Canadian, so who knows what it was for you guys.
I think they retailed for $5.99 at launch.
American.
American
Actually,
money.
at the time,
I think we were
at par.
We were on par.
We were on par.
There was a point where we were actually higher.
Yeah. Yeah, we were like, haha, we're 10 cents more than your dollar. Let's go vacation in America.
I remember being like faux salty about that, where one of the nationals, because it was in more recent memory, one of the nationals, our dollar was actually stronger, but they were doing like, when they were selling the convention exclusives, they were doing like an American exchange rate. And I was like, no, our dollar is better. These should be cheaper.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay the old price on these. But back to the question at hand. as we so do.
Amber, how dare we go on a tangent during the Patron Hangout? We've never done that, Amber. That is not something we do when we do the Patron Hangout. Did you know that, Amber? We stay on topic at all times and never drift off topic.
I think one of my favorite chases, and like, I'm almost sad that I wasn't around for it to actually pull it, was the Hulkverine.
Oh.
Wolverine Hulk.
Wolverage?
Yeah, Wolverage. Just because he looks so cool. And he was like the first, when I got back in and like started collecting Wolverines again, I was like, oh my god, I need to find this guy because he is awesome looking.
We bought a couple packs of Hulk, and the only one we pulled was the Iceman one.
Yeah.
And we really into that one.
You might as well just call him Captain Ice Cube.
Could very well. Like, we could just pull up the Hulk set, and it turns out it's Captain Ice Cube. It would not shock me in the least with how poorly named these things were.
Come on. Wolverine. That sounds good.
To end up getting the Wolverage.
It's
Ice Hulk.
It's Ice Hulk.
Yeah.
Just
I
Ice
know.
Hulk. Winter Hulk, Hulklops, Ice Hulk, Hulk Mariner, Mighty Thor, and Wolverine. But yeah, to be able to get that, I traded with our now good friend Aiden, at the time when we had first met him, a like box of old Ellies that we had from like the very, very beginning. Very old Ellies that like are pennies now, basically.
We gave it all to him. But that was what I like about that is I ended up playing with those more with Aiden than I did before we gave them to Aiden, because every so often there was a time where after HeroClix tournament we'd be stuck waiting for a friend of ours who, not so much stuck, but we would be waiting for a friend of ours either to go out for dinner afterwards or whatever after the tournament. So we'd be there from, the tournament would usually end, we start at 1, we're usually done by 4 or 5, so we're there till 6, and he would whip out like uncarded figures versus uncarded figures, 800-point teams, and nothing feels better than saying, I make an attack, I've got a 5 attack value, you have a 14 defense, I need a 9 to hit.
for 1 damage.
Yep. And you need to do that 78 times in order to kill a figure, because back then, dials were deep. There was like Electros with 9-10 clicks of health, because you needed those healing clicks towards the end.
I remember actually going over that. There's an episode of Casual Corner where I take like an hour to go over like each dial of my Wolverine collection and like showing off the old Wolverines who used to on average have like 8 or 9 clicks for like 50 points. Like the Wolverines wouldn't die.
There was a time in the game of HeroClix where one of the most important standards you vetted a figure on was ease of healing, which is why the veteran Fire Lord was one of the best figures in the game, because he had like a 12-13 attack with like 4 damage with range combat expert, which only did extra damage back then. But he had like a 13 defense after his first 3 or 4 clicks. But he had a lot of clicks in that 13 defense, so that you could get your whatever medic it was to heal him, because medics usually only had like 8 or 9, 7 to 9 attack then. It's like, oh, I only need a 4 to heal this guy. Awesome. The standards in which we used to say a figure was good was very different. He's got a low late dial defense, so you can heal him easy. Wait, what? We used to enjoy that?
Wait, they used to get to their low dial and not just be dead?
Yeah. It's like let's take a look.
How many stop clicks did he have? Like 3?
But there's no such thing as stop clicks. There was no special powers in this era.
Yeah. No.
It's one of those like old school mentalities where you'll get the newer players who have like a healer, and they're like, oh man, why does my healer have like defend with a 16 defense? Like, so you can heal. Yeah. You defend to replace them to the 16 so that you only need like a 5 to heal your guy.
Yeah, you take the nightmares.
I'm going to show everybody the beauty that was the original Fire Lord. Let me see if the preview monitor still does this. No, that didn't work the way I thought it would.
You just...
that's why, because I need this. Right? No? Whatever. Anyway, so... the Fire Lord, his starting defense was 18, then he goes 17. This is the veteran Fire Lord, specifically. 18, 17, 16 for the first 3 clicks, which at the time was ridiculous. But he also has a 13 attack on his first click for 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. And then you look at his defense, it goes 18, 17, 16, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. And he's 97 points. And everybody's like, oh, dude, he's so easy to heal, man.
Bring up the Vet Wolverine.
The veteran Wolverine in this same set. The challenging. There he is. Figure number 75. I love his last click. 6 attack with Blades, Claws, Fangs. 11 defense with Regenerate. 0 damage with Battle Fury.
Yeah. This was peak Wolverine. For 75 points, you got 8 clicks. All of that doing Blades, Claws, Fangs damage.
With 4 clicks, move and attack wasn't a thing because you just carried and attacked.
Yeah. And only charge existed at the time.
Running shot existed. Just I think Cyclops was one of the few guys that had it.
Yeah. Look at that veteran Cyclops.
78 points with 10 range with
boy.
3 targets.
Ooh.
15 defense with energy shield.
And that was another thing where, like, attacks were high and defenses were low, which was why clicks were so long. Like, they had so much health because it's like, well, you're gonna hit.
Like, even the original must-have figure, Black Panther, for 27 points, you got 5 clicks of health, one of which has the Avenger, like, has stealth and outwit. And there was nothing breaking stealth until the next set. And even then, the only thing breaking stealth was the Superman team ability, and the characters they gave it to were terrible. I think it was the veteran Superman was the only one of 3 Supermen in this set that actually had the ability. Oh no, sorry, the rookie had it with charge and 2 damage.
Ooh.
The experienced one had it. It was the veteran that didn't have it had the Justice League team ability.
I also want to point out that even though like gold powers existed at this point, this Superman doesn't have hypersonic. He just has charge.
Yeah. And then I think it was the experienced one was actually better because he had Superman team ability with the range. And then you would just wildcard off of that. Even with the rookie Superman, it's like he's just there to wildcard Superman team ability.
155 points, eh? Sounds like a good enough point value to give everyone see-through green.
Oh my.
Little trip down nostalgia lane.
Oh, hero.
Nostalgia lame.
Hey man, activation clicks. Let's talk about those.
Oh my god, yes, activation clicks.
You take your Sasquatch out of here right now.
I'm looking at Hawk. from Hyper Time, 69 points. Mwah, magic number. His first click has no powers, 6 movement, 6 attack, 11 defense, and 1 damage. You were pushing that click, just like you did with any Hulk.
Oh, the activation clicks. Oh boy.
Oh, but nothing was better for Mastermind Fodder than the original Solomon Grundy. The rookie had 10 clicks of health for 48 points. All clicks were easy to heal. So you put him next to your Mastermind guy, just beat him up with all the damage. Guy with Mastermind's never taken any damage. Solomon Grundy will win, I guarantee it.
Solomon Grundy was born on a Monday. He didn't die until 3 weeks later. Like, we were keeping him good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, goodness.
God. People call that part of the game wholesome, and everything that game design was able to make was the very same, and that was kind of why Avengers had to happen.
Yeah.
Because eventually it was like, okay, well, they're making a Shazam. Great, he's going to be hypersonic with super strength and damage. Cool. And like you could predict the character and what they would look like. The only thing that would change would be the numbers.
And I feel a great deal of sympathy for the designers at this point as well, because until we moved over to the 5-figure, the commons, uncommons, rares, super rares format, not only were these like characters that were pretty much predictable, you had to make 3 of every character that came out in a set. Like, these were 100-figure sets because every character had a rookie veteran, rookie experience veteran version until you got into like the 7 to 10 uniques, which was something that you could just throw in there as a separate character.
But by the time you've made all those other figures, well, you know what? I've got a bunch of Batman dials. Let me just retool one of these into a unique Batman.
And whereas we have like our monthly OP kits right now, where we have 3 figures come out a month, we used to have like a dozen or so LEs come out per set. So then that was your OP. But like the LEs themselves were just redials of figures from the set itself. But they would have like their real names. So you would have like Bruce Wayne, you would have Selena Kyle, you'd have Logan, whatever. Like, and they were all bronze dial guys, and Casey's playing with Mike again.
Well, I got somebody in the chat who's like, we can't hear you all that well, and now I'm getting concerned. So,
I'm just going to disappear for a second.
But yeah, so like that was the way that the sets were.
Fair warning, we cannot hear anything y'all are saying if you can hear me. Oh, technical difficulties.
is that better?
That's it.
You're back.
All right, we're back.
All right.
Ugh, sorry about that.
Where did you lose me in my rant?
I don't know.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. So basically, like, I just, it's nice that they went over to the newer format of the 5 figures, the like anywhere from 60 to 80 figure sets. We don't really get 80 figure sets as much anymore, but you got a lot more chance to be imaginative with dials. And even though when we get from like set to set to set, it's like, oh, it's an Iron Man. He's gonna see through stealth. He's gonna have ranged combat expert. Like, you still get an idea of what characters themselves are gonna do, like the base formula for each character. But now it's okay to throw like an unclicked character in there because you don't have to make 3 of that character. You can be like, oh hey, I can spend some time making this cool, unique character and just kind of throw him into a set. I don't even remember what the original question was. Oh, wow, that's where this came from.
So, and I never had a chance to answer because you decided to go on, like, the tangent from the depths of the Marianas Trench. You were on some deep mode trench. Jeez. Oh, can't even say the word anymore. That's how long I've been out of it. Oh my gosh, she's still going.
How we go.
Is this how it feels to be next to me when I talk?
Sometimes, yeah.
Question. The question from Flash is probably one of my favorites. Just because I like the question, I wanted to say it. I liked his flexibility, what he did in general. Yeah, I can't really go beyond that description of, I liked him, he was fun.
Hey, the smoke cloud question was great. Like, or the smoke behind him that made the question mark.
Mm-hmm. Mike is on his way.
Interesting story is that's actually the first chase I ever pulled was that question.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I pulled a flash booster off the wall and just bing. It's like, all right.
Chase would have been our. What would have been our? I think in the era where chases started to show up, it would have been the Earth 2 Superman. Because I think that was one of the first chases. Because they had the Earth 2 and the Kingdom Come Superman in Crisis, and they were particularly difficult to get. And is there another set before that had any chases? Come to think of it, I ended up buying so much Crisis. And everything about it I regretted.
First unique I ever pulled was Kazar.
Oh, the first unique I ever pulled was Mr. Fix-It. I thought that was super cool. I was like, wait a second, this is the Hulk. That's awesome!
No, this is Mr. Fix-It. He's technically more dangerous than the Hulk.
Exactly.
Or less dangerous, depending on who you are.
He had Perplex.
Well, the Hulk is a perplexing creature.
Yeah.
It's still one of my favorite, I guess, classic nowadays, comic covers was when Wolverine had his own run. There was a whole storyline of Wolverine as Patch in Madripoor with Mr. Fix-It. And there is a comic cover of them, like, being, like, gangsters, like, side by side. But, of course, you got the giant Hulk. And this was at the time before the movies when they started trying to, like, pretty up Wolverine. And you had, like, the actual, like, short little Badger Man Wolverine.
Yeah.
And, like,
the man who has more hair than anything else.
Yeah, and they're, like, leaning against each other as, like, gangsters. And I'm like, this is awesome. I love this picture. And, another thing to Google. Yeah, that was a great comic cover. But...
I distinctly remember one of my favorite scenes. You had like a version of that in a collected Essentials book, I think it was.
Yeah.
And there was a scene where there was a bunch of purple pants all over the bed, and it was Wolverine who wrote in a note, said, "Get out of town. I know who you are."
Yeah, basically he had gotten into a fight and like had wrecked his clothes, and like Patch had been like, "I got you, dude, here," and like gave him like a whole suitcase of purple pants, and he's like, "Haha, I know who you are."
Oh yeah, because it's really hard to figure out who a large hulking gray man could secretly be.
Right? Well, it was along the same lines as Wolverine hiding as Patch, and it's funny because at the time, like the way they were writing it, it was a legitimate alias. Nobody knew who he was. He didn't use his claws at the time. But like anytime nowadays, like during the death of Wolverine and the return of Wolverine storylines where you like get some dialogue from like Kitty Pryde and stuff, who spent some time with him in Japan, and like in Madripoor, and she was just like, they're like, man, he used to think he was so clever with that eye patch, and it's like nobody's gonna know who this is. It's like, yes.
They just know better than to like bring it up.
Yeah. I was like, well, we didn't want to get stabbed, so.
Yeah. Well, it's like the text with superheroes, and it's like Lex Luthor or whatever, and they're like, we figured out who Superman secretly is. He's this guy, and they're like, okay, cool. Are we gonna go attack him? Does being on a day job make him any less bulletproof? Leave him be. Like,
just because he's a reporter doesn't mean he's not Superman.
That's like that Justice League Unlimited moment where he's like, where Lex Luthor got into the Flash's brain. He's like, well, can't do anything right now, but at least I can find out who the Flash is. Takes off the mask, looks in the mirror, he's like, I have no idea who I am right now.
I think my favorite play on the whole like alter ego, how do you not know thing, was there is someone made like a fan comic of Lois Lane sitting at her computer, and she's uploaded a picture of her with Superman and up to Facebook, and Facebook's facial recognition is like, would you like to tag Clark Kent? And she's just like, what? I was like, this is amazing. I love this.
Well, and that's the other really cool thing, for me at least, when they talk about, you know, how Clark Kent as a disguise works, is that, and it's hard to tell, is that he throws his voice.
Yeah, that is something they have mentioned.
You know, he kind of slouches and all that, and like you get the Kansas boy more prominent than the I'm here to save the day.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to like do that appropriately, I think, which is why a lot of the joke of like, oh, how do you not know?
Well, the other part too is I think somebody showed a picture of a celebrity with glasses and without glasses. Like, oh yeah, that's how that works.
Yeah.
Honestly, after like 8 films, seeing Daniel Radcliffe without glasses looks wrong. It's like, no, you're Harry Potter. Put your glasses back on.
Yeah, or you're either Harry Potter or Elijah Wood. There is no difference.
There's no in between here. But yeah, there's so many people that'll like throw in like the amount of celebrities that have lost celebrity look-alike contests where like the actual celebrity will enter themselves into a look-alike contest and someone else will win. It's like, no, you're not that person.
Yeah, Dolly Parton was one.
Yeah, Dolly Parton
that was
lost
what I was
one.
about to bring up.
Charlie Chaplin lost one.
Cher lost one.
Yeah.
To a dude.
Yeah, Cher lost one to a drag queen.
So did Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
That's true.
Or another like I think one of my favorite ones was like everybody that's going on about how could you not know that Clark Kent was Superman, and then they show a picture of Zooey Deschanel without bangs and glasses.
Yeah.
And it looks really weird. Yeah. It's like, that's not Zooey Deschanel. Like, who is that person?
Well, and then there was that like grand moment where Zooey Deschanel, Katy Perry, I think there was one other person that they all looked almost identical.
Somebody dad had some explaining to. I can remember the meme.
Oh, well, there was like even more. There was like I think that one kept evolving. There was like 7 different like singers and actresses that just looked like the same person. It's like somebody was busy in the 80s.
I'm keep going. I'm just looking that up now.
Jason is intrigued.
But yeah, it's I could definitely understand it, but then when you see like I feel like Christopher Reeves did a really good job of portraying both Clark Kent and Superman, because there's like one point in the movies, I can't remember which movie it was, and he's getting ready to like tell Lois who he is, and like you see him going from like kind of like all hunched over and meek to like standing up all tall as like Superman and stuff, and then he decides not to do it. But like every other time they've had someone else portray Superman, like even on TV, even with like Dean Cain and Tom Welling and stuff, they don't do anything as the Clark Kent persona. They don't add anything to that. They just basically play both parts. Even in the later movies, like when you have like the Brendan Routh Superman, or even the Henry Cavill Superman, like nobody tries to get into the Clark Kent persona like Christopher Reeves did, and that's something that it's a big thing in the comics, where like he does try to alter the way that he like carries himself physically so that you're not gonna make that connection.
Plus, not having the little hair curly cue, I think that's also important.
Yes. It's
must have the spit curl.
I think it was one of those things where it's like Clark Kent parts it to the left and Superman parts it to the right, or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, we have a wild mic has appeared.
A wild mic has appeared. Bum, 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 bum,
just as we finished off.
It just as you're about to go, because it's...
Yeah, I actually do have to make up...
I'm afraid of that man's shirt.
Yeah. You want to empty the other container, too, of the other stuff, so I can clean it when I'm done and pour their chicken into it?
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Cool. Awesome.
I think I have to get in that.
Sure, whatever.
Okay.
All right, have a good night, Amber.
Bye,
Night,
guys!
It's nothing personal, Mike. She's got to go get herself ready for bed, because she works early. All right. The man with the list has arrived. I think we have our audio troubles covered now. So,
Oh, goodness.
We'll see. All right, Mike. Get the show on the road, sir.
Well, I'll take this as my chance to go ahead and Bamuska too.
All right. Drew, thank you very
Night,
much
guys.
for joining us and keeping us busy this weekend.
Yes, sir. Bye.
The floor is yours, Mike.
All right, starting off, I'm sure everyone wants to talk about the whole, Rebirth set. I just played in last Thursday and got a couple nice pieces in a brick. So I want you to scale on about 1 to 10. How good is this for a seal tournament? Like the set, what do you think about the set as a seal tournament?
It's I found it very interesting as a sealed format on the small end. So in a small store with, I think we had 8 people show up for our event, for our release event, not our pre-release. I wasn't there for pre-release. And I wouldn't say I got absolutely crushed by any one particular figure. I was caught off with how powerful some figures were, such as Tempest. Tempest caught me way off guard. I did not know it was that strong. But I didn't do a ton of research myself going into it. I like going into the first event I play sealed super blind, as blind as possible when we have our unboxing. So like I generally look at the unboxing and then try to keep myself in the quiet. That said, the sealed environment felt good. I didn't feel overpowered, overwhelmed. But some games ended fairly quickly, depending on what was being played. So if I was to, and the chases in this one do seem a little on the strong side, but not necessarily overpowered. I feel like in a world of sealed, this set falls under the pretty balanced because there's so many teams that you can build with each figure. But then there are still a few that stand out as making me wonder, is this going to dominate? So I think I personally need a little bit more information, but I do feel like if we get into a WKO season, where Rebirth is the sealed set, there might be, like, nobody's team is going to feel weak, but some teams are going to feel exceptionally strong. And I think that makes for a weird kind of format. Lex Luthor is one that kind of stands out to me as particularly tough to take out. And then, the Batman who laughs, I think in sealed it's a little harder to focus down. And a lot of the chases do kind of are things that make me go, as it were. So overall, it seems okay, but there are some outliers that make me question how safe it is for competitive play. And, people will disagree with me, and I understand that, because I'm not 100% on my own opinion as it is. So I'm going to say, yeah, it's a good, fun, sealed set, but I feel like I have enough experience / data to really define it as something I would say, yeah, let's do this one to the end of the year for sealed competitive play. You know what I mean? So I'll never say that for a single set anyway. Keep it in the seasons, as it were. Oh, you're still muted. It's all good. We lost audio at one point, so you're fine. You're doing better than me already.
Okay, let's try that again. All right. So I really like this. I'd say I'm about an 8 at where this set is becoming and stuff like that, and pieces they're starting to use and things like that. I find that there's a lot of pieces that can like supplement some of the teams that I like to play a lot of soldier teams, yep. And I'm lucky enough to pull not one, but the good and the bad Deathstroke, and he's got the soldier team. Keyword on there. So I'm thinking about maybe he can mix it up a bit with the soldier teams that Cap's soldier buddies that I like playing. So what do you think about the which one? I'm sorry, I should have been more prepared. I should get the cards right here in front of me, but I don't know if they're the same point value or not. But do you favor one over the other?
It does depend on what I want to do with the team. So to preface, the common figure number 001, Deathstroke, he's a more offensive, I'm going to beat whatever's in sight kind of figure. He's also a wild card, which really goes well with a lot of soldiers because a lot of soldiers have the PD team ability. And as a result, I think he really fits in for a team that you want to be a little bit more offensive, a little bit more tough, a little bit more strong. But he is 100 points of your build. So depending on the size, like how much he fits into the team kind of scales with how big of the tournament it is. So in like a 300-point tournament, he's a third of your team, but in like a 400, he's a quarter, and that percentage starts to go down. So it's less worrisome depending on how high your points get. But then when you get into the uncommon one, I believe it is, the Defiance one, he's 75 points. So he's less of a factor, or less of a fraction of your team in that manner. He adds leadership, but he's more focused on running shot, incapacitate, but still able to do some damage. So, he's got, and he also has that adjacent friendly characters with the Defiance keyword can use Mastermind, but only to choose Deathstroke. If Deathstroke was damaged by an opponent's attack, since your last turn modifies attack and defense by +1. So he's kind of a counter-attacker and not necessarily a main attacker. But as well, I also want to point out that the uncommon, the good guy Deathstroke, the Defiance Deathstroke, I feel like fits in more with a Defiance team than a soldier team. I feel like the 100-point one fits more categorically across the board, where there's more teams I think that can make functional use of the 100-point one than there are that can, like as far as the soldier team keyword is concerned. Whereas the Defiance one, I think functions a little better in the world of just Defiance. So if you're making a soldier keyword, I would choose the common one. And if you're using the Defiance keyword, I would use the uncommon one. So that's kind of the direction I would go if it was me. And that's kind of where they fit into those things. The other thing, too, is there's not enough soldiers with under 17 defense where I want to be defending with 17 defense. You kind of want to push that one onto Click 2 to get him to the 18 defense. So, and then you gain some attack as well, which is super useful. And leadership's not bad. But the fact that he has to be on Click 2 means you're paying for one of those clicks that you're not using, and it's still a good click. So I feel like the uncommon one fits a better sealed / defiant strategy, and the common one fits more soldier and other strategy, as it were.
Alrighty, so we got that out of the way. Let's see. Which rebirth chase do you think will be used most in the meta?
Okay. Competitive play, there's a lot of talk about the Drowned. I haven't taken a good, solid look at them, so I'm actually kind of taking the chance now to see if I agree with people on that one. So that was the one that was aquatic, Atlantis, Dark Knights, Monster, Pirate keyword. Indomitable has the Reckless, Disregard for Life, and Will Not Hide in the Shadows anymore traits, which are both good. Then the Batman of Earth -11, Batwoman of Earth -11. Stealth, water terrain is considered hindering terrain for line of fire purposes, and everywhere on the map. If the Drowned occupies water terrain, she deals penetrating damage, which includes her poison. So I think the Drowned is a figure that is going to make Tempest and other water creators really kind of stand out. And I think that's so the Drowned makes an Atlantis team kind of a little viable right now, especially when you consider that the Giganto and Namor have made their mark as a potent force with that keyword, and she is very playable at 75 points. So I would say the Drowned kind of stands out as very usable, but you have to build the team with her. which means she's not the greatest, right? Because there's a specific team that uses her. And that's just taking advantage of the fact that we know this is the figure that we're talking about. The Dawnbreaker is a figure that plays to where you're playing. And if you know that there's a bunch of dudes who are planning on bringing some bystanders, Dawnbreaker's got to bring. But he plays on a more local scene where on a grander scale of the grand metagame, the Dawnbreaker will sort of seem less good depending on what the state of the metagame looks like. And right now, the state of the metagame is full of a bunch of tough dudes and less about Pog makers, even though there are Pog makers. The Dawnbreakers, like the ones he's making, there's better versions. He's making better versions of Walking Woods, which are good. +1 stats on Walking Woods is not a thing to say, haha, they suck, don't they? Groots are on just about, I'd say 25 to 30% of the teams that are being played. So that means if they're getting their Leslie, you're getting a Leslie so you're getting 2 Leslies out of it, plus the Walking Wood, because the Dawnbreaker has his Green Lantern team ability, means he's able to carry them all to where you need to be. So Dawnbreaker kind of stands out as more utility, more uses in the game, even if you don't push towards a theme team. The Murder Machine has a lot of that taste of Vulture and that taste of Hawkeye on him, and a lot of people are trying to make him work. So be aware of that, because part of it is that the Alfred protocol where he's got knockback, and when the Murder Machine KOs an opposing character, after resolutions he can make an attack. Now, it's a more watered down version of what Vulture and Hawkeye do, because Hawkeye keeps running shotting and Vulture keeps charging. You're kind of, the Murder Machine has to KO something in the midst of nowhere, we'll say, or wherever he needs to be able to keep trying to kill things. So Murder Machine is a less strong version of both of those, but if both of those rotate before the Murder Machine, although I think Vulture will be at the same time as Murder Machine based on years and stuff, he'll kind of be in that scene. Red Death is cool. And there's always a cool hypersonicer, but I think the competitive game has moved away from him. But that's not to say if where you're playing hypersonic dudes work, the Red Death will work. And that's, I think, an important element to him just in general. What else do we have? The Merciless, I think, is the most blasé, but he's also one of the tougher ones to take down. So, like, I was kind of bored when I read him. And I mean, that's not necessarily that he's bad. He just is. And I'm not as excited. The Devastator is bigger than his figure is tough looking. His dial is tough looking, and he doesn't, he's a flagrant false advertising, we'll call it. The Batman Who Laughs, there's a lot of talk about trying to make him work, and I'm not going to disagree with that. The fact that the Robin kind of pops in, pops off, pops in, pops off whenever he takes damage and whatnot, I think is really, really good. And yeah, I would say the Batman Who Laughs. There's enough crazy people who are going to try him that make him kind of seem the way he does. A lot of talk about Barbados, especially in regards to using Mjolnir with him. I haven't read him, so give me a quick second. Monster keyword: use the Batman enemy team ability. Friendly characters with Dark Knights can use the Batman ally. Okay, so cool. He can give some monsters the Batman enemy team ability, because higher attacks is not a bad thing. His special movement, phasing, as free, can only move 4 squares, and when he does, after resolutions, adjacent opposing characters have immobile until your next turn. That's cool. Special attack, end your stories 1 by 1. Steal energy, power, make any number of close attacks, each targeting a different opposing character. He will heal for... Oh my god. So that's why people are talking about using him with Mjolnir. Heal back up the top with a bunch of attacks. That's cool, yeah. With an 8 range close attack, sure, there's nothing wrong with that. And so falls the realm of light. Opposing characters in the 6 squares that can use Outwit, Perplex, or Support can use Battle Fury, which takes away the range attacks from any of those in regards to how he functions. So just in general, I'd say Barbados and the Dawnbreaker stand out as probably the most universally useful. There's more teams that can use them, whereas the Drown has a specific team. The Merciless is just a dude you probably play in casual. The Devastator, also another dude who plays in casual. The Batman Who Laughs has a team that that can probably make him work. And the Murder Machine, Red Death are also kind of along the lines of, like, Murder Machine is a less guilty pleasure Vulture, or like, you feel less bad about being able to kill a bunch of things with the Murder Machine than you do with the Vulture, because, you know, you kill a thing with the Vulture, okay, cool, I'm further across the board, and now I'm killing another thing. Oh, I'm going to charge, and then I'm going to charge again. I'm going to flurry because I'm using it with the octopus arms. It's disgusting. And you feel shame. And you should feel shame if you're using this. And the Red Death, like I said, you know, he has this thing. Yeah, so just in general, I think those two are super, super potent. And, you know, also worth noting, the Reckless Disregard for life on all of them is really, really strong. So, whew.
Okay. Do we have any other questions waiting in our Patreon?
Oh, Nathaniel popped in a question. Monster or Cosmic as the theme to beat in Nationals this year? I think both are on the consideration. So, I don't think either one kind of... I can't say either one is bad. Both are on the list. Because Giganto and Namor, that team... like, so U.S. Nationals, that team is still... Tyler Spee's version of it is still good. After rotation, I think it's still good. So I feel like if you want to consider monsters as the team to beat, yeah, it's not easy to beat. It is beatable though, as Emily herself, the young, the beautiful lady who created the Vulture monstrosity that I'm familiar with, and everybody using Vultures, the Vultures are capable of killing Giganto Namors very well, because they do a ton of damage on their first attack, put them to stop, and then the follow-up attack just does the murdering. Then they charge onto the next one, and the team does come with Outwit, which means Giganto or Namor is going to get attacked. And what's worse is, because of the way it kind of rules and the way the rules kind of interact with it, what ends up happening is, if you flurry, you kill one thing with the first attack with the flurry, you're going to be able to charge after this. You make another attack, you kill something else, you've actually mounted up 2 charge uses of charge after the action resolves. And then because you're able to flurry with the charge, you use one of the charges to go charge something else. If you kill that thing, you've mounted up another charge, right? And I've still got 2. So now if I go across and I've still mounted up 2 charge uses with my Vulture, which is why this figure is super talked about right now. If you've got enough damage, and let's say 3 charges, he ignores characters with a charge, you charge Flurry the first time, use one of the charge uses, doesn't necessarily KO a thing, but you still follow up with another charge on the Giganto, and then a third use of charge. If the Giganto's still alive here, I'm sorry for your dice. But can I have them back when you're done with them? So there's an answer in that. But then the Cosmic teams are also strong, and I don't think we should take our eyes off of that solo army Unimind. It's such a threat in the current modern era that I think those 3, if you can beat those 3 and then include the Vulture in your combination of things, like there's 4 teams to beat, I think. And that's, I think that's the way it kind of rolls out. So, to kind of address directly, Cosmic and Monster are on the list, but I think Vulture and Hawkeye are also things to be ready for. And if you're not ready to kill those, I got bad news for you. It's going to be a long day. And that's just, those 4 teams are only the July conversation, right? 5 teams, sorry, you got to include the, and then we go to July, and then we lose the Hawkeye team. And then I don't know what the version of the Monster team looks like in the post-rotation era. Or at least the definite Monster team to play. It's hard to define what that one is. So it's it is what it is right now. I think those are on the top of the list, but there's bigger threats to be concerned about, specifically with that vulture nonsense that is occurring right now. I love Emily, but her team is so broken. You can't hate a player because they made a team that's broken. You just got to kind of look at it and go, well, that's going to be tough to beat. And you either join it or you do what I do and continue in your stubborn ways and just accept the fact that you might just lose for a year. I feel like this is a year where I'm not just going to not win tournaments, because there's lots of tournaments I just don't win. But I'm not going to do well in this environment, much like I did not do well in a Unimind-filled environment. I did not fare particularly well. So, yeah, I think that's kind of where the conversation is directed in that manner. Oh man, I do not envy. You can start getting yourself unmuted in the meantime, Mike. But I'm just gonna say I do not envy anybody dealing with that meta game for U.S. Nationals. Whew, that's gonna be hard. Oh man, floor is yours, sir.
Alrighty, so coming up this week, I am thinking about, speaking of those couple theme teams or the teams that you were talking about. I am going to be traveling out to West Virginia in a couple days to play in a tournament out there, trying to fulfill my whole, play at different places and stuff like that. Travel out and get out there for a while, their tournament this week listed up on the thing says I think it's still a golden age format, but one of your pieces have to be a deity keyword, and I'm thinking about bringing Kronos with me. So is he viable at 60 points with that, like not giving away my team or anything like that, but just like if I build something with him at 60 points, is he like viable, or should I play him at more, or should I maybe look at something else with the deity keyword?
I personally think as a character, depending on, like, if you're not talking about high level, if you're not going to nationals, I think Kronos is a character who's better than the credit he gets. So I don't think people don't like him for competitive play, and I understand that, but that doesn't necessarily mean he is bad. He's 4 clicks. That's not excessively great for 60 points, but he's a cosmic entity, which means he can't be targeted with really big quakes or energy explosions or all that kind of stuff. And he's got that you can't kill the abstract trait, which is the important part about him. Once per turn, when a friendly character misses all targets of an attack and misses it by at least one target, by exactly 1, you may re-roll the attack. When Kronos is KO'd, this effect continues for the rest of the game. So, oh darn, you have a 9 range probability control with Colossal, which means you can see basically the board on an outdoor map. Or at least enough of the board to keep your prob rolls going. And if you miss by 1, you get a second re-roll on that attempt. Both of which are very good. Because how many times have you rolled your eyes like, oh, I missed by 1, thank you, Kronos? And even when he dies, he still lingers, and that effect is still very strong, especially if you put a lot of work into making a hit. And that's like if you need to hit a 4 or a 5. Sorry, if you need to hit like a 5 or a 6, so many times you miss with a 5 or a 4 in both of those cases, and you just kind of look at it and go, well, Kronos is going to let me get another chance at that, and that doesn't care about range. So yes, Kronos is definitely worth an entry into your team and as your deity entry, to say the least. So yeah, for sure put Kronos on your team. I'm not going to badmouth him because also he's got prob that can't be outwitted. So, you know, because he's power cosmic.
All right. So another thing I had concerned about going out there, because normally in my local area, they've always had maps to the store, and we just kind of use it from the big bin. Like I've never really bothered to bring a map with me like that, and so we just play with what's there. This I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be have to bring a couple maps with me, and even though I guess that's the rules. Like even though it's Golden Age, we can bring Golden Age maps, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. So I guess with the new maps that we've seen here with the I guess the Rebirth and the other one prior to that, the other cassette or two, I should dig out. But tell me which 3 maps I should be like looking to bring with me, or what would you recommend, including the ones that just came out?
Okay. Before I get into that, very quickly, are you looking to have fun, or are you looking to be competitive?
I'm looking to be competitive.
Okay.
Like I didn't drive all the way. I'm not going to go drive all the way out there, stay overnight, and spend all that kind of money just to have. Well, of course, we all want to have fun and everything like that. But it's like, that's one of the goals, to try to be competitive in this tournament.
Gotcha. Okay, so leave Krakoa at home. I swear by that map as far as a fun map. And if we're talking about the team that you're building with Kronos in mind. So yeah, cool. An outdoor map is of course a very useful tool to have, and one of the best outdoor maps for a character like Kronos, because he's kind of exposed with his defense value. I think Wakanda is a very good map for him, specifically because at 17 defense at range, if you can get him thunk in to into some nice hindering terrain, he's going to have a 19 defense, because Wakanda, not the newest Wakanda. We're talking about the Wakanda that gives you, that's like a little bit more open. The newest one, not the newest one with the map bonus, but rather the older one that gives you +2 defense in hindering terrain. This is why I'm kind of bringing it up, is because that +2 defense is the important part of this conversation we're having, where a 19 defense is better than a 17 defense. And you can easily sink Kronos into a part of that, and you have that 9 range to see, generally it doesn't matter because you're outdoors. So I think that is probably the best way to keep as far as one map. The follow-up to that is, if you think that there's a team, if you look across the board and you see a ton of guys with a ton of long range, and you think you're going to get outranged or outreached, you might want to avoid an outdoor map in general and go for a more focused indoor map, which is where I think the Underground Cavern or the WizKids office. I don't know if you have any of the premium maps yourself, the rubberized ones that WizKids sold over the counter. If you don't have that, that's fine. The Underground Cavern is, of course, a reasonable replacement for that. Barring that, if we're going Golden Age, one of the most annoying maps for anybody to try to work their way around as far as an indoor situation is the prison. I think it's just called the prison. It's got like a bunch of little square cells, 2x2 cells. And they're all surrounded by indoor walls. And that's all blocking. So, try and get around that as an indoor map. You're not going to have a good time. So I think those are two, those two things are things to consider. Now, where we get into the third map is that edge case sort of situation where what is something that your map does that might be able to very specifically deal with anything that you're going to come across. Now, obviously, you've told me you're not really planning on letting me know because somebody might be watching. That's cool. Just a couple things to consider. If you can in some way move your opponent's figures around, be it by mind control or something like the Ameridroid's effect or by knockback, the Bifrost might be worth a consideration, or something akin to the Bifrost, because if you can get them into those orange squares, deal some unavoidable damage to them, who cares about your invincible or nice last click puppy oh lockjaw? Let's put you in the pit. I nothing feels better than taking a lockjaw with an Ameridroid and going, in you go, on that when lockjaw is showing click number 6. But when I say specifically in that situation, that is what the third map is always that one that you can't answer with a hard answer, because this third map is something your team can do, not necessarily all the time, but something you need it to do. And then, you know, I've said all of this, and I don't know if you have points left over for a location bonus. But a location bonus like the new Wakanda that has the 5-point location bonus works with Chronos. And if you have other super senses or other shape change, that once per turn reroll is so potent. I've seen it used. I haven't had the chance to play against it because in the past 2 tournaments I've played in, where I've put a little bit more effort into it, I've only been using Tony Stark's tower, and I have lost 1 map roll and it wasn't part of a tournament. So I don't really know what it's like not to play on Wakanda. I do have to actually get some situations where people are going to force me into that and find out what that experience is like. But I have seen it in action, and it does work. So if you have those extra points, you're keeping to a theme, you think you can win consistently in a map roll, yeah, man, do it. Go for that Wakanda map bonus. And then ignore everything else I said. Because I stand by this. If you pay for the map bonus, use the map. Like if I pay for the map bonus on Tony Stark's tower, I can't think of a situation where I'm not using that map. So, kind of that I swear by that particular logic. And people fight me on it all the time, but I like, so many people say bring 3 maps. Like, why? But when map roll, I'm using the one I paid for, and I'm not using my constellation. The hell with that. But yeah, that's my best map advice at a high scale without direct knowledge.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That would help me out and narrow things down a little bit more. So, alrighty. Next question I wanted to ask you is, in my, the sealed for Rebirth, I ended up pulling a couple. I tried making a Justice League team. I got the Wonder Woman, Batman, and one of the other. I'll go off the top of my head. I'll think about it. Anyway, so they all have that trait with the thing. What do you think of the Justice League trait? Oh, it was the Flash. Okay. Yeah, it was Wonder Woman, Batman, the Flash. Like that, we're all on the team. I tried so hard to make it work like it, but that it just didn't have enough points for the team. It was 300-point build. So what do you think of that? Is it worth it playing in like a fun fun tournaments and stuff like that, or is it just yeah?
I don't think the Justice League exists in its current iteration that in a way that really makes full functional use of that. The reason I say this is the Batman is 85 points for 5 clicks of health. If you get your hands on that Batman, he is as good as dead. And that Wonder Woman is 6 clicks for 100 points. She's indomitable. She's got traded energy shield and super senses against close. But then, she gives your entire Justice League team close combat expert. The way I'm looking at these guys is I consider it more in the way of which one of those do I think is going to be the most effective on a Justice League team, and then build kind of around that. I'm trying to remember what the Flash was. I'm almost there at the figure. You'd think I'd know this a little better, but I don't stare at the figures the second I get them. I'm bad.
Yeah, that one was prop control. I do remember that one.
Jeez, that one is really good.
Yeah, and everyone else with the Justice League keyword gets prop control on their attack rolls.
Yeah. So right there, I think that guy is the one that you can build safely with in mind. It's also worth noting is that the Superman, if he hits first, gives everybody ignores hindering terrain for line of fire. That's not bad. It's actually really good. But it's not as, I don't think it's as universally super good as the Flash's is. And I think that's an important element to consider. And I think if you can, I think you can safely build with that Flash in mind as the guy who's going to use that, and then look to the Justice League keyword itself to possibly make a team that functions. I'm more or less thinking out loud on the fly on this one because I got to remember I'm going to try to ignore the existence of all these other Justice League characters while I consider which characters really fit into the theme, because it is Justice League, not Justice League of America, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that there is a distinction between those two keywords. It was really annoying, as a matter of fact. That does give us Shazam, Billy Batson. There's a bunch. Oh my gosh, all the Super Friends from the Batman animated series. You also have the Justice League Unlimited versions of a couple dudes. I think that Flash already has props, so it's really kind of overkill on the prop there. We go to Harley Quinn and the Gotham Girls. You do have the big Barda with the boom tube who can phase teleport and then attack possibly with her, or you get the Batman God of Strength, Flash God of Death, all the gods, and then of course there's stacks of Justice League dudes in the 15th anniversary Elseworlds. One of the most important, I got to give credit to Edward Shelton for every so often reminding me this character exists. The 60-point Green Lantern from the Elseworlds set, where he's got running shot, and he's also got pulse wave and telekinesis as a special attack power. And then he's got that trait where he's got 8 battery tokens, and when he attacks, you remove a battery token. And if there's no battery tokens, he can't make range attacks or use powers or abilities. It's an unfortunate side effect, but for 60 points, what you get, and if you make 8 attacks in a single game with this guy, congratulations. But he's one that stands out because you want every attack to be as useful as you possibly can, and including a pulse wave attacker with that, maybe even 2 copies of him to consider, I think gets a lot of distance. In addition, you have the 60-point Batman who can perplex at almost like an aura of dudes. You have the Diana Prince, who's a Justice League character. Kid Flash, Justice Riders are really good. You also have the starter set from that set specifically. The Ray is still going to be legal for a while. Might even be worth it to consider him, especially if you give him prob with 4 targets. And of course, can't discount the adding prob to that common Flash in that set at 45 points. I think there's a lot of Justice League guys that can make a semi-viable Justice League team that kind of can function off of one of these Justice League guys making the first attack. It's just got to be the right one with the right attack, and I think the Flash is the guy to look to for that. And that would be the direction personally I would go. In order to try to make that trait work. And, I've also been accused of being out of my damn mind a lot. So do note that I am worth ignoring. But yeah, I'd say experiment with that. Hey, there's a Zatanna from the Batman animated series who also you can add to that team. She already has some prob, but extra prob's good, right? There's no such thing as too much probability control, right? Dude, probably something critical miss all the time. I do that all the time.
All right. So, I don't know what it's like up there and where you guys are, but have you guys been hearing or anything under the scuttlebutt of pieces being broken or unfortunately those things happen. I know they tried doing that with they put the little foam in there and they tried remaking the packages and everything like that. So and the I'm not trying to badmouth WizKids or anything like that, because you can probably see where I'm going with this.
Yep.
That I pull in my brick. I pulled Jessica Cruz. Look good. I too enjoy playing Green Lantern teams. I was like, good. Glad that they made her, but she's got one leg. It wasn't even in in there at all. Like I tried fishing around like in the plastic or anything, looking inside the box and stuff, and I guess it was just shipped to me with one leg. So I guess the part B to this question is do they still do that? We can send it back to WizKids and get a replacement for it, or have they what's going on with that type of policy with WizKids? Should I send it back?
I think the figure fall return policy may still exist. I'm not sure, because I've never had a reason to take advantage of it, because everything that I've had a problem with like that has been like a common or uncommon that I have 3 or 4 copies of. So I'm what you would call the 1%er problem. As one of the comments said in one of my unboxing videos, I'm the rich getting richer. That aside, that little dig aside that I like to throw in every so often, I'm not 100% sure personally on the figure replacement policy as it stands right now. I think I've heard stories where you can still send figures to that, and they still send back a figure of a similar rarity of the same set. That one thing you do have to note about that is you're not necessarily guaranteed the same figure back when they do have that policy. They're going to send you a super rare if you send them a super rare, but it might not be Jessica Cruz. And an important part is it is just I understand the eye candy portion of it is. You want the figure with both legs. You want the figure with all the arms. Sometimes they don't have them, but the dial still works, right? So you have to take the kind of decide, is it broken enough for me? And I do get that it's kind of unacceptable to get a figure and be like, where's the leg? Unless am I getting trolled and I don't realize that Jessica Cruz is a character who's actually missing a leg? Because I'm exposing myself as a non-DC fan, so. That said, that aside, that bad joke aside, or terrible reference aside, I'm the worst person to ask this sort of situation, because nothing this bad has ever happened to me. And I think one of the things to consider is how frequently this kind of thing happens. I've seen a lot of figures just kind of popped off the base. The glue that they use to stick the figures in the base, in the slot there, it's a job that can go bad by hand very terribly. And I think it does frequently just not stick or not get on there, not enough glue gets on there. And that is probably the most frequent break I've seen, but that's also the easiest fix. Missing full-blown limbs happens a lot too, and I've seen that happen a lot. And I've also seen it where the leg is in the pack. I've also seen it where the leg isn't in the pack. It's always disheartening to get something like that, especially if it's in a higher rarity. And I personally think that in the case of yours, it's still a Jessica Cruz dial. It's still a Jessica Cruz figure. Still all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't be as bothered by it, but at the same time, it also take a second to keep my eye open for the figure. If I can find a reasonably priced single in an area, I'll just snatch it up. Or I'd be like, hey, you got a Jessica Cruz, and I have a super rare extra that you need. I also have this Jessica Cruz, so you're not really losing anything except the leg. I have done that before, where it's like, look, I got this rare that's on your list, but he's missing an arm. You cool? It'll be like, yeah, whatever, man. The dial still works, right? Certain people will be. It depends on the person you're dealing with. In that case, I don't suggest this. I don't. This is just kind of a thing that I've been able to do with my luck. So long and short of it, if it really, really gets to you, I'm not sure exactly the information that you need to use, or you need to mail the figure replacement policy stuff to, but I say mail it to that and then hope that it does come back to you. as the figure, but you do have to brace yourself to just get a super rare, especially if it's a common problem. If you see more than one Jessica Cruz without a leg, and you might end up finding out that a lot of people are going to send them back. So my most non-answer answer that I could possibly give is try to send it, meet your expectations, but at the same time, depending on your opinion of it, it may be worth it just to keep it.
So then, just a follow up to that. Then, is this still like tournament legal, or okay?
As long as you haven't in any way, shape, or form adjusted the dial itself. Like, so this, where is it? I gotta figure it. Give me a second. I'm just trying to find something I can safely. Yeah, whatever. Here we go. All right, so I got my Ameridroid. Now, should this Ameridroid fall off, everything is like the Ameridroid himself falls off. I'm not pulling off my Ameridroid, guys. Everybody relax, okay? This is not major victory. Everybody calm down. But let's say that all I've got is this part here, really. And maybe the figure. Like, just off to the side. This is all still good. But if I've done something like this, let's kind of... So I pulled this off, and I've drawn in crayon on this. And I've put paint marks all over this, and something like that. And to some degree, modified this base drastically. That's when things start to get into the no-no category. Because ultimately, everything you need to know in HeroClix is right here. And as long as this part here isn't broken, snapped, cracked, whatever, you're A-okay to go. If it is, that's when you run into problems. So your Jessica Cruz missing a leg, perfectly legal. If you're missing a piece of the base, that would be cause for concern for tournament legality. Actually, this is something I had come up with Amber. The early run of the Loki LE from Fear Itself was a very problematic dial because you couldn't turn it, which was more than annoying. So what I ended up doing is I took a bunch of commons that I had lots of from Fear Itself. I ripped them out. I took the stickers out of them, and I shoved them to the bottom of the base so that, one, the base stayed flush on the table, and two, because it was glued to the bottom of it, it was able to turn the dial. But then the judge turned to us and said, I do have to warn you, if somebody is being a dick, they can complain and have you disqualified for this base because it is a modification on the base. So base is the important part when it comes to tournament figure legality. And that is when you got to be like, is this tournament legal? Oh my god. And that's when something is wrong with that black part of your figure. That specific, like, I say that and somebody's going to be missing a leg on a Black Lantern. I'm going to have this question again. That base is the most important thing on the figure. Yeah, so I think that's the only way I could really answer that in its finest.
Alrighty, so I think we've pretty much covered everything that I had concerns with. That, of course, you probably want to get going to watch some TV or something like that. I don't know. Is there something going on?
Some kind of, I don't know. Some. I don't know if. Geez, I'm not a walking thesaurus like I used to be as a child. I say as a child in my 20s. I don't want the dev code on this. I don't want the dev code on HC Realms. It's game. Something about seats. Nope. Thesaurus.com is the worst thing I've ever come across.
Okay.
Some
like
kind of game
not
of chairs. I don't know. I hear people are watching it. I'm trying to catch up with it. There's something about dragons and thrones and swords and barbarians and lots of boobs and murder.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Would it? Do you think that that property would ever translate into a HeroClix?
You know what? I said the same thing about Lord of the Rings. Let me take that back. They can make anything in HeroClix. I think it's like it could happen. I don't think it will happen, given that the Game of Thrones. I feel like the game design of something focused on Game of Thrones is really better as a political democratic board game or a card game with some kind of deception, that kind of thing. Because I don't think it's like there are fight scenes and there are people who get murdered. But when people get murdered, they're assassinated. They don't have a chance really to fight. There are some fights, but if you look at the grand scale, like we had, let's say, not including the season that's coming up, we have 7 seasons, averaging about 10 episodes per season. So we got about 70 episodes. I think in those 70 episodes, there's maybe 6 or 7 that had maybe grand scale battle, and everything else was, if there was a fight, it was a small fight or an assassination where somebody just got stabbed and they didn't see it coming, or a head got turned into a blood orange. I don't think it really sells itself to the world of HeroClix as far as game design is concerned, but there's been a lot of good work done with board games and whatnot that I think are more appropriate to the genre.
Yeah. Then would it just be an excuse to have dragons into the game, though? Wouldn't it? Like, or because aside from the Blue Eyes and Yu-Gi-Oh, hey, sure, we'll have dragons in this game.
I mean, any excuse to have dragons is cool. And there are a lot of excuses to have dragons. I mean, Fin Fang Foom was a con exclusive many moons ago. We still haven't seen Xiao Lao, the dragon that Iron Fist punched to get Iron Fists. We haven't seen. Well, I mean, we could see another Fin Fang Foom. There's lots of dragons still to pull from the lore of the comics that we have. But yeah, any excuse to put more dragons in would be great. I'm sure. Tell me an artist, a 3D graphic artist who doesn't want to make a dragon, and I want to tell you somebody who's lost their soul. So.
Alrighty, that's pretty much all that I had on my list here. Thank you so much.
Hey, no problem. Thank you very much for being a patron. And if you guys want to be a patron, check us out at patreon.com/marriedwithclix. Any valuation gets you access to this show, where you can come on and ask me and Amber questions. Until we're blue in the face or until Amber goes to sleep, and then I'm blue in the face. We'll generally ask anything, and I'm surprised we haven't had more trolley questions over the years. But in general, it's a good old time that we like to have. So you guys can check it out. Join us here. Join us on the Discord. And help support us. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube in general, we do appreciate your support. And if you have a YouTube Premium account, we appreciate your support. Oh boy, do we ever. Love reading those metrics. Like, people with YouTube Premium watch us. Yes! But again, guys, thank you very much for watching. Mike, Drew, thank you guys for joining us on the Patron Hangout. Nathaniel, thanks for trolling us from the Patron Hangout questions and using that and filling that with non-questions. In the meantime, guys, you all have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you tomorrow for the Metal Lab.